Go, 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 go.
3, 2, 1, 4 tires.
Still there, inside.
What a jump! What a jump!
The track is wet. It's good.
Still there, clear.
3, 2, 1. Green flag, green flag.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ford Fuel Podcast post Indianapolis edition and post over edition. Coming off the bye week on our podcast, we're back. Going to break down the last couple weeks of NASCAR racing and a lot of off-track news to talk about today. So I'm your host, Dom Capilupo, joined as always by Steve Ray, Wesley Riddle, and Sam Dooley. Steve, no podcast last week. I think we all needed a little break since we didn't take Easter week off. But now we're back in it. I think we're going to be straight through the championship. I'm pretty excited. This is actually episode number 24 this year, so we got to make this one a good one.
Really? Already 24?
Yeah.
Wow. I know the last couple of years, I don't think we've made it to 24 episodes in a year before, unless I'm wrong on that. So, yeah, that's exciting. And having that bye week now, yeah, I'm ready and ramped up, ready to get through the end of the year here.
Absolutely. Same, Wes. I see you and Sam have the Bubba Wallace hats on. That's for our audio listeners. They're both wearing Bubba Wallace hats. I have a Denny Hamlin hat. So we got the last two race winners represented very well in this week's episode. That's Steve's two favorite drivers have gotten the win the last 2 weeks. So
They are. Hey, Bubba, no hate on Bubba. I do enjoy Bubba. Denny, like I said, off track Denny is cool. On track Denny, no chance in hell.
I was super pleased. Sam saw your hat, started talking about it. Was going to put my hat on this morning, did not. So, going to throw it on. I've been a Bubba fan for a long time. Since he and Ryan Blaney started going through Canyon together. And I guess, gosh, I don't know what year it was, like 2013 or 2012, I talked to Bubba on the phone and had no clue that he would end up being a NASCAR Cup Series driver. Uh, just like super brief, just how it worked out with the Blaneys. But that was a really cool just moment, kind of looking back, uh, and just having seen his career progress and now getting just a monumental win. So it was a really cool moment for me just to watch him be able to get back to victory lane after, I guess, almost 3 years winless since his last win at Kansas. It's crazy it's been that long. But getting a crown jewel like at Indianapolis, obviously not the most thrilling race, but it's never been that at the Brickyard. It's always kind of been a strategy race, putting yourself up front. Um, but I enjoyed it for the most part. I thought there was good strategy that made the race entertaining, but it was really cool to see Bubba Wallace get back in victory lane.
Yeah, I was really pleased too. Um, if you haven't watched the interview, I did an interview with his engineer that I've been friends with for a few years, JR. And so that's a huge reason why I'm a big Bubba fan. And I got real emotional about all that. I've been a Bubba fan before that just because he's an Alabama guy. I'm from Alabama. I think he's the only active Alabama driver in Cup at least. I know Grant Enfinger's in trucks. I'm also a Grant Enfinger fan. But yeah, just kind of Bubba and following his career trajectory and just the ups and the downs. And actually, that last win at Kansas came on my birthday 3 years ago. It was on my 21st birthday, so we celebrated that one right. We celebrated this one right too. I had definitely had a headache yesterday morning. Um, but yeah, it was man, I was screaming, I was crying, like I went through literally everything there because everyone probably knows I'm a Joey Logano fan. I've been a Joey Logano fan for a long time, but just the personal connections that I have with the 23 team, just seeing them finally win, and I know how hard JR works, and I know like personally I know how hard JR works, and I know how hard that whole team works. So it was just pure elation watching Bubba cross that line. I was just hoping that he came off a four, and I know how far that start finish line is from turn four, and I was just trying to get him across. I was trying to yell him across if I had to. Um, but yeah, it was a great weekend. Like Wes said, not really that compelling of a race, but I was talking about this in a group chat somewhere. I give Pocono and Indy the pass because they've just always, you can't pass there. It's always just kind of been a strategy type racetrack as long as I can remember. So, I mean, I don't really blame the car. I don't blame really anyone. It's just going to be a strategy track, and Bubba came out with the best strategy, and he obviously had speed in the car because he held off Kyle Larson for not one but two overtime restarts. And of course, the talent as a driver. So, um, but yeah, I enjoyed that weekend. Dover, I mean, I didn't hate it. It was follow the leader, and it was Dover. So, but yeah, it's been a long time. It's good to be back with you boys, and let's talk some NASCAR.
Yeah, we didn't even have you the last episode we did. So yeah, good to have you back on the show. And Dover, I can go into a little bit, talk about my experience there. Just went there for the day, came back. I will say Dover has one of the best, if not the best, fan zone experience out there on the circuit right now. There's so much to do in that fan zone. They have so many different things. I mean, for crying out loud, we had the world's largest rubber duck. I mean, that just puts a Dover ahead of everyone else right there off the bat. And they had these motocross riders just doing like a trick show, just stunts through the air. That was really cool. They had like a beach set up. They had this like tent with like vintage arcade games, skee ball, and like a bar all in under one tent. That was really cool. They had a really good stage there, which they brought drivers out there. And then they had a bar, and they had drivers throughout the weekend come and bartend at the bar. So that was like really cool too. I wish I was there the whole weekend to experience that. But Dover, their concessions are a little lackluster. Also, the positioning of them is a little lackluster. We sat in the middle of one and two. No concessions under the seats in turns one and two. You had to walk all the way to the front stretch if you wanted any water or food. And basically, the on track product is better in person, which at most tracks it is. Because, I mean, there are battles throughout the field that I'm sure TV isn't covering. And I haven't even talked to you guys about the TV broadcast because I haven't gone back and watched any of it. Was TV just solely focused on like Denny Hamlin at the end of that race, like the last 60 laps? Because outside of that, it was pretty decent racing in the middle to the back end of the field.
I
Yeah, from what I remember, it was a lot of focused on the leader. I don't know what it's been about the TNT broadcasts. It just they haven't been that good. But yeah, it was if there were any battles that were going on throughout the field behind the leaders, it wasn't being shown on TV.
A little bit later, once they got a little strung out, I think they showed a little farther back. I think that TNT, I think they showed some growth during their races, I will say. Because the first one, the first couple weren't great. I felt like these last two weren't as bad. And there's going to be growing pains because I I don't want to say that the reason Prime was so good was because they just hired everyone that had been there before. But they did. They hired people that had been there before, which is probably how you want to do it. But if you're TNT and you want to use your in-house people and try and get them acclimated, there's going to be some growing pains. And they've signed this contract for however long to have these races that they have. So I mean I like to look at it from the optimistic side, not the pessimistic side, and say I did enjoy the broadcasts the last couple weeks more than I did for the first couple that they had. Um, and I think it's definitely gotten better. And I think listening to what Dale Jr. had to say, I think it was either after the first or the second TNT race. He was like, "Yeah, we've got things that we know we need to address," and I think they've really gone about addressing issues, and it's just something that you can't fully throw together in that little 5 week span that they had, or however many races they had. So I think they took some good steps forward, and I think that hopefully by next year it'll be a lot better, and they'll kind of listen to the feedback that people have.
Yeah, I think for sure it's tough to judge TNT right now. I think you got to give them a whole year now to just kind of sit back and take a look at what happened and see how they fight back from that and basically how they attack anything that went wrong to try to improve it and see what they come back with next year. Now, if next year it's more of the same and it's a little lackluster, then you start to get worried it's going to turn into a Fox deal. But I think it's not fair to judge them after 5 races and to give them the straight Fox comparison. Like, it's not prime, but I don't think he was as bad as Fox either.
I
Yeah, I
agree.
think that'd be a fair comparison. First year, but it's Fox's what 20, almost 25 years of
Hmm.
Fox. Like you've had 25 years to fix some issues. Um, so yeah, give the pass to TNT this first year here. Now that we're switching over to NBC or USA, same
Yeah.
family of networks starting at Iowa here. So, and they will take us the rest of the way. And thankfully, their coverage historically over the past few years hasn't been as bad.
Now, did anyone even watch the simulcast? I feel like I didn't hear anybody watching the simulcast they had on True TV with Jeff Burton and Larry Mack and Mamba Smith. I feel
I
like I don't know if anyone else watched it. I
I
didn't.
I had accidentally turned it on one time. I don't know which race it was. I turned it on. I had clicked on the wrong one on YouTube TV, and I was like, "Oh, cool. There's Jeff Burton and Larry Mack." And I watched it for a little bit. They were interviewing someone that I had no clue who they were. It was kind of like a Manning cast thing,
Hmm.
except lower profile celebrities that they brought in. And I was like, I'm gonna change it back to TNT. We're gonna go we're gonna go back to the main broadcast. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like awful. It was just it wasn't something that I was that interested in.
And I think one thing that hurt it too was the fact that they had so much focus on the in-season tournament, right? There was not a lot of spread and talking through the field aside from moments of like caution, moments of restarts, moments where there was a lead change. I didn't watch a lot of it. I didn't catch much of any of the Dover race live, but I did kind of see a little bit of clips, and there was a moment I turned it on at Sonoma, and then same with this week at Indianapolis, just to check it out. And it seemed fine. Obviously, they're content. They know what they're talking about. I feel like they definitely bring interesting stats and kind of a good observation to the table. But when the focus is solely on $1 million and the two drivers, it's good for the bracket. But now that that's over, I guess they're not bringing it back, right? That was it.
Hmm.
So now, I think it would have been interesting to keep it maybe through the rest of their tenure. I don't know how the contract works, obviously lined up with television, but um, just how they could have done covering a race separately from like a broadcasting perspective, right? And just kind of break down certain drivers in the field. They could broaden their focus to maybe like 10 drivers. Um, could be 10 totally random drivers, right? And then we just get them covered throughout the race, or they just cover the race, how it would be shown on TV, but they give their take with their own statistics and observations. So I think that could have made for an interesting remainder of the tenure before we switch to NBC, but obviously we won't know. But I think it was fine for what it was. But obviously, I think the booth um, and the presentation the booth brings is more of an attractor for even myself. I do like stats, but I also like hearing the raw commentary just to see how it's viewed in the scheme of how everybody watches it.
I like what Prime actually did with Thursday Night Football, how they have like the analytics like simulcast that they have going on, where it'll like highlight the blitzer that's coming, or it'll show like, the analytics say to go for it on fourth and less than five or whatever. I feel like if there was a way, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's the analytics guy that Dale Jr. always brings on the Dale Jr. download.
Oh,
If they had if they
Russell.
had
Hmm.
If they had Russell do a simulcast where he's kind of, he's popping in and bringing in analytics, but you also have like the normal broadcast over just like some analytical graphics and stuff like that, kind of as a fun, nerdy simulcast. I could see myself watching that just because I'm real into, numbers and looking at stuff like that and kind of seeing different trends and stuff like that. So if they had something like that, I would probably be more interested in that, but that's kind of just, spitballing. I know they probably want to lean more towards the main cast type thing where they bring in people that kind of, oh, that person's going to be on that broadcast. I want to tune into that one. But I think like an analytical simulcast would be kind of a cool thing for like real hardcore NASCAR nerds that really know what all the stuff they're saying means.
And they could obviously bring in like DraftKings and do sportsbook. I feel like that would be a really good way to do kind of a multicast where there is that separate thing on top of the analytics. So then they're breaking down whatever sports book they want to talk about. Obviously I don't know how that works, but um, that would just give you a better perspective for those that put a lot of money into the sport, right? Because NASCAR, I feel like, has become pretty profitable for a lot of sports bettors, and I think that having that implemented as well would be something that could be really entertaining just to have on TV and get a lot of people really worked up, even more so than just watching the regular TV broadcast. You could have cameras focused on those drivers, where they're, might be head to head, right? Certain things like that. I think something like that could be for a good project maybe in the future they could work on. And another way to have a channel to get eyes on the sport.
Yeah, for sure. And before I mean, talk about the broadcast, on my way back to returning my scanner in Dover, I come walking, past, I had to walk down the front stretch because the fan zone was in the end of the front stretch towards turn four. And so I'm walking through, I'm walking basically halfway down the front stretch. And here comes Dale Jr., Steve Letarte, and Adam Alexander just like running. They like these guys are sprinting to get out of there. I guess they had to catch a flight because of the rain delay, maybe. But and you see this Dale Jr. fan with no just self control, like running after Dale Jr., like trying to get something signed. I'm like, obviously, this is not the time, buddy. You know what you got to do? You're going to have to go to JRM Fan Day at 3 in the morning if you want Junior's autograph.
It probably is 500th too for him to resell it on Amazon.
I'm surprised it wasn't the whole tub of 10 die casts
Oh my,
wanting to get them to
The
sign
guys with
every
the
single
two
one of
by
them.
fours, the guys with the two by fours that have
Yeah.
like 10 cars screwed into them.
yeah, this just, yeah, that was funny. And on my way back after I dropped the scanner, go back to my car, a couple drivers came by on golf carts. I think one was Zane Smith, one was Ryan Priest, and then the last one that I saw come by on the golf cart was Ty Dillon, and everyone that was standing around there just cheering loud. I mean, some of the loudest cheers that I've ever heard for Ty Dillon after he advanced to the final round, beating John Hunter Nemechek at Dover. But that was pretty cool too. So yeah,
If
it
only he
was.
won. Like I
Oh
would have
my
been
God.
like Ty Gibbs winning did nothing for that bracket challenge at the end, but Ty Dillon winning could have been absolutely huge for sports betting and just coverage and everything. Just the fact he was a 32 seed. Obviously, us in NASCAR, like we know it was a lot more likely for a 32 seed to win than any other, 32 seed in any other
Hmm.
sport. But, for the regular viewer, for the people that like to throw money out there, like that would have been a story for the ages. Like, and also for Ty because of how he's always worked for himself and not through the family branch. He's been always like unlike Austin. I know Austin's kind of more business focused, but Ty always wanted to do his own path, go his own route. and he still made a way for himself. And like that's been impressive to see. So obviously for Colleague, who struggled this year, who's talking about going maybe to truck racing, stepping out of Xfinity program, for a guy that hasn't really had the most success in Cup, for him to just have that 4 week stretch and get the coverage, get the recognition, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, nobody wanted to see Ty Gibbs win this tournament. When you have a guy that's a 32 seed that, okay, he made it through Atlanta, surely he's going to get eliminated after Chicago. Made it through that. He's got to get eliminated at Sonoma. Had the crazy last lap battle with Bowman. All right, he's got to get eliminated at Dover. Made it through that to get all the way to Indianapolis to even have a shot to be from a 32 seed to, being in the final round for the championship. Was an incredible story of its own. And then Ty Gibbs had to go and ruin the whole thing. So by winning the $1 million, but
Dylan might have had a chance, but he got in that stack up restart incident, which put damage on the nose, and then it just slowed him down the whole race. But it seemed like he was able to kind of hold his own against a lot of other guys that were lapped down, and then Ty faded really late in that race, so like the late teens, even with fuel. So could have actually been a good battle.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna change subjects here, and gonna go back to Dover. Gonna go back to Denny Hamlin. I heard on Stacking Pennies last week the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Ryan Flores had the nerve to say that he doesn't know who's better career-wise, Carl Edwards or Denny Hamlin. Like, are you kidding me?
What?
How's it even close?
How is it close? How is that close?
If your heart's in it, it's close. If
Yeah.
you're thinking, if you love Cousin Carl, like a lot of people do, it's close. But if you look at the stats, obviously it's not close. Denny Hamlin, far and away, body of work, longevity, number of wins, every statistic basically in the book outside of championships. He's a like first ballot, like a unanimous Hall of Famer. Like it's. I'm not saying that Carl Edwards isn't. All right, is he already in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously he's a Hall of Famer too, but Denny Hamlin's just on that next level. Like it's. But I mean, some people just love Carl Edwards. I love Carl Edwards. I want to say, like, my heart wants to say that he's better than Denny Hamlin, but my brain knows that that's just not true.
If you take 21st century, only since 2000, Denny Hamlin's a top 5 driver in the 21st century.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I put Denny Hamlin, maybe like Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson. I'd still say Jeff Gordon and maybe Kevin Harvick.
I'd argue Denny Hamlin's going to end his career better than Harvick, even without a championship, because Harvick raced 5 more years, you got to think. So they're getting about to that same level, and Denny's only got 2 less wins right now than him.
Yeah, I'd say in the stat book for sure. I feel like Harvick was definitely held back the first half of his career at RCR. But stat book wise, yeah, Hamlin, I wouldn't even say if he passes him. I mean, there's an argument for him now. Just with his on-track performance, the consistency that he puts down. Harvick was consistent too, but the longevity, I feel like, is the big thing. Like Hamlin is still knocking the numbers down. And I don't think the championship argument should be a huge, huge thing because, yeah, it's a number in the book, but I know a lot of people say that's the most important thing. But then again, like drivers come in and win. The way the playoffs are changes the ball game. They have for 20 years. Like it's not the same that it used to be. But, he puts up great numbers. He's a talented driver. He's still getting it done. He's a team owner. I mean, everything that he has to manage off the track too, that's a lot. So it's hard not to deny that he's a top 5 driver of our era, if not top 3.
Because if you put him, he's top 10 all time. I think you probably, I'd say 10th is a solid number all time right now. And if he wins a championship, I don't think that's gonna put him ahead of anyone else would be in front of him. I don't think that puts him ahead of. I mean, the closest thing you could say is Kyle Busch in the Cup Series. But I mean, even then, I think Kyle still got he's got the more wins. He's got 2 championships. I think Kyle Busch at his best was probably better than Denny Hamlin. But yeah, I think Denny Hamlin goes from what, 10th to maybe ninth with a championship.
It's just a matter of who you put him ahead. And it's so hard just because the whole NASCAR is so subjective just because of the era and the body of work that people used to have versus now, the rules, the way you have to drive the race car, aerodynamic. There's so many different factors, but I guess if the easiest way to judge it is by the stat book, and obviously he doesn't have the championship, but his numbers, consistency, laps led, top fives, top tens, average running position, all that make Hamlin definitely a contender for the top 10 best of all time.
I mean, he's got one full-time season without a win. How many drivers in all of history, like NASCAR history, can you say that about?
Not many. You could have said it about Kyle and Harvick, but then you saw them that kind of fade off.
Hmm.
Maybe more the car, but Hamlin's been able to figure out in a new car.
Old
He can
dog
figure it
didn't
out
learn
any
some new
car.
tricks.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of Denny Hamlin. He'll admit he doesn't have the raw talent. He's just going to work harder than everyone else to master his craft. So I think that's kind of what's helped him with age and kind of stays. And he signed that 2 year extension now, so he'll be good for 2 years after this one. And then we'll see what numbers he racks up and if that is definitely the end of his career or not. But I just had to get that off my chest. I couldn't believe the blasphemy Ryan Flores said. Compare, like, it was a close battle between him and Carl Edwards. I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and also his longevity speaks a lot to his mental fortitude, and you see that a lot with these guys that have long careers where they're a lot of always the bridesmaid, never the bride. A lot of the second place, a lot of those top five finishes in championships, guys like Mark Martin and Carl Edwards and those guys, is you just see their mental toughness, and that's one of Denny's biggest strengths, I'd say, because obviously we talked about how much he juggles off the track and everything. And just for him to keep working the way that he does, yeah, I mean, he's one of probably the mentally the strongest, one of the strongest ever in NASCAR, just because of circumstances that have been put in front of him and obstacles he's had to overcome. So I mean, you're completely right, and that is a completely boneheaded take. I don't even know who the guy is that you said. So
Well, somebody that's also had to overcome a lot of obstacles, and I guess we could transition into that. Our race winner.
Yeah. Bubba Wallace in the Brickyard 400. I mean, could we say it was out of nowhere? Probably. Like, no one was picking Bubba to win that race before qualifying. But the Toyotas really came out with really they just like they would have had the top 6 spots if Denny Hamlin didn't wreck in qualifying. That's just how good the Toyotas were. And I mean, it came at the cost of Joey Logano. I looked like Joey Logano was going to steal that race again. I mean, I was not excited about it, but when that tire went down, I think all of NASCAR was excited.
I that's got to be one of the first times that I have ever cheered for Joey blowing a tire, if I'm being honest. Because I mean, I love Joey. Obviously, he's my favorite driver, but Bubba needed that for not just playoffs and all of those implications, but just the all the outside noise and everything he's had to deal with. Like for him to pull that out and for it not to be for it to be on pure talent and pure strategy and just that team putting a weekend together and like it wasn't that big of a shock obviously because in qualifying he qualified second, like he was fast, like you were talking about. The Toyotas were really fast, they seemed to have the right strategy coming down to the end there, like they seemed to know what was up. um, and it was just all together. The whole team just kind of put it together. All of 2311, just the way that that team's like a family. Everyone works and helps everyone. Like it was something else. It was awesome to see Bubba in victory line.
Yeah, the way that I stood up and clapped and applauded at the TV when I saw that Joey Logano and his right rear was down. I just want to talk about when they were coming towards the end and they had those two overtimes. You heard the radio, um, you heard the radio transmission of Charles Denick come over and say, "Hey, we pretty much only have fuel for one overtime restart." And so then you had the wreck that happened with Christopher Bell and Zane Smith, and that's leading to the second overtime. And I was heartbroken in the moment for Bubba because I was like, "That's it." I was like, "I got to come in and pit now." And does Charles Denick just carry a wheelbarrow around with him everywhere? Because that's what it seemed like to be. It's not like Kyle Larson. You have multiple wins on the year. You can afford to take those chances. If it had gone the other way and Bubba Wallace, if they ran out of gas and he's finishing, going from the lead and losing potentially, we'll call it a round number of 20 points, that's a huge swing, especially with where they were in the point situation there. So to take that chance and to trust that your calculations are right, um, from the team, JR included in the engineering side there, just to have the balls to be able to do that was incredible. And, the fuel held up all the way through that second overtime restart and even enough to do the burnout after the fact. That I think, what, I don't know if it was in your interview, Sam, but basically they backed it into victory lane and then it ran out of gas. So yeah, it was cool to see. So cool to see. Bubba is such a likable guy. Gets so much unnecessary hate for no reason. I mean, we all know really the main reason why he gets hate, but unnecessarily, because he's just one of the coolest, most down to earth, relatable guys in the garage area. Um, and to get a win, not only a win, but a Brickyard 400 win, and beating arguably one of the best, if not the best driver in the Cup Series right now, really just speaks volume to Bubba as a driver, the 2311, the 23 team themselves. And I think now that they've kind of gotten this monkey off of their back, that they've always been hovering around this 16th, 17th in points every single year. Now that they're past that point, um, I think they could do some. I think there's an opportunity that they could do some real damage in the playoffs.
I
Yeah,
think,
there. Go ahead, Wes.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think too that I think the way that it worked out there at the end was interesting because Bubba and Larson obviously were on the front row, and thinking back, I feel like both of them, I feel like they might have had the most pressure at Indy over the rest of the field, and I'll tell you why. Obviously, Bubba, the situation with 2311, having been winless the last 2 years, coming on three, the pressure that he's had his whole career. Um, and also another year where he's been on the playoff cutoff line where, he's sweating to get in, he's stressed to get in. And this year he's had a really good year thus far, but the numbers haven't reflected. If you just look at the finishing results, for him to capitalize and get a win was huge. But I bring in Larson because, and it wasn't really talked about a lot, there had to be a lot of pressure on him because the last time he was in Indianapolis was an absolute heartbreaker, the way that it worked out, when he was in the Indy 500. And for him, there probably was a lot of emotional stress and just for him, the will and drive to win, after just that heartbreaking weekend. Because I think for him, that and the Coke 600 had to be probably the biggest defeat or one of the bigger defeats of his career. And it's kind of showed maybe in performance, not saying that that's why he's performed off the past few weeks, since the Coke 600, but obviously it's just, it just didn't seem like things were really working in his favor. So I feel like for him, for Larson too, like there was a lot of personal, you know, drive for him to try to get that win. So I think it kind of was storybook too. Just seeing those two, they've got into it before. We saw Vegas 3 years ago, but also they've had a long friendship and they've raced together for a long time. But also just the emotional stress that probably came for that win for both of them. It seemed like there was a lot for both guys. But for Bubba to be able to beat Larson twice, Larson, we tout him the best driver in the world. I mean, that's huge. Um, Obviously, track is a little bit harder to pass, but Bubba did everything he could to be able to fight off Larson both times and did it. And that's really important.
Something we got to talk about. We're talking about Larson, the guy that everyone compares him to in the cut field right now, Christopher Bell. What is going on with that 20 car, Christopher Bell, spinning out twice, battling for the lead at Dover, and then I don't know what he saw. He saw the 38 car, and I really don't know what he was trying to do.
That all I'm gonna say is that was one of the dumbest things I think I've ever seen. Because, and we'll talk about it, the Austin Hill BS. Bell's not a driver that would intentionally wreck Zane Smith. And people are calling for a suspension, and we'll talk about that. This was not intentional. This was not deliberate. Obviously, this was stupid. Like, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, honestly, it was one of those moves where I think NASCAR should have personally held him for aggressive driving. I know that's not something that gets thrown around a lot, but just the blatant eye, you can look at that. Even Dale Earnhardt Jr. said that was terrible.
Hmm.
The blatant eye can tell you that like that's uncalled for. Like I know it was a mistake. Bell probably feels horrible about it, but a penalty like should obviously be used for that because it's out there. Lane Riggs got penalized earlier this year. Maybe it was last year for aggressive driving. Something like that should warrant it, especially a crash that ends up being that vicious. And Bell still ended up finishing pretty good, I
Eighth.
think. I think he got top 10. So I feel like there should have been some kind of reprimand for that just in the moment. I mean, it's not hard to tell when you call the race, but just that was dumb. And then last week, just driver error again. Like the past 2 weeks, it's just been driver error. So I don't know. Just needs to kind of reset, hone it in, and just kind of reset for Iowa because he's pretty good here. So just yeah, take a little breather, Bell. Like you're fine. You don't. Poor Zane Smith probably had no clue what happened, and hopefully they've talked about it. I'd imagine Bell's the kind of guy to call and apologize. So, but yeah, insane.
Yeah, like to me, what I've been seeing out of Christopher Bell the last 2 weeks is kind of just a, a desperate driver. That's hard to say with a guy that's third right now in the playoff standings. But like, he won three out of the first four, and then it's not that he just fell off and we don't see him anymore. It just he hasn't won, I guess, and it seems like he's just doing everything he can, and he's over driving the car. This is back-to-back weeks where he's just made a boneheaded mistake. And I wouldn't 100% kill him for Dover because Dover, I mean, what he was trying to do was very difficult where he was. But I mean, he's driving like a driver that's on the cut line, desperate for a win, or he's in a must win. But in reality, he's a driver that's in the playoffs. He's got three wins. He's locked in. Like it just, it feels like he's floundering right now, not in a performance standpoint, but just as like maybe it's something mental battling, just like, hey, we got off to that hot start, thought this was going to be my year to win 9, 10 races, and then since then it's just kind of been barren, and he's to the point where he's over driving. Um, Purely speculation, of course, but he just looks on the track to the eye. It looks like he's just trying to overdrive everything that he has, and he's doing every little thing. And sometimes you just need to slow down to go faster, which is the craziest thing about this sport. But sometimes you just, like Wes said, take a breath, think about what you're doing. Like, hey, I'm in 12th. I don't need to try and clear myself or whatever he did there. And hey, I'm going for the lead here at Dover. I don't need to push this hard. I can try and get him on the long run. I can try and get him in a little bit, whatever it is, for it to happen twice at Dover too. Like it just seems like he's floundering and he's trying to put it into this. I guess you could call it a winless streak for him. I mean, it's been like I guess it has been quite a few weeks since he won, and he got that taste of winning back to back and winning a bunch. But it's just like I don't know, man. Like he seems like a desperate driver right now out there.
Yeah, Christopher Bell currently sits fifth in the regular season standing, 62 points out. It seems like a far-fetched deal to get the regular season championship at this point, but he's gonna, I mean, fifth is pretty good with the playoff points that he's got, so I think he's in a good spot going into the playoffs. It's just, yeah, cleaning up the driver errors that if he can clean that up, he's going to be a serious threat to get back to the championship four like he did in 2022 and 2023. I think Steve stayed quiet long enough, so I'm just going to let Steve talk about Mr. Austin Hill.
All right. Let me get a close. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Austin Hill is the biggest bitch in the garage. Period. Listen, this man will race anybody and everybody super aggressively, but the moment that you do it to him, he will throw the biggest hissy fit, crybaby fit that you'll see in your entire life. My almost 2-year-old at times acts more mature than Austin Hill does. What he did to Eric Almirola could be almost borderline attempted murder. At a first separate issue, how there are still parts of racetracks that we're at that doesn't have safer barriers is beyond me. After some brutal incidents that we've seen, for one, just to completely have your brain unplugged, Eric Almirola did not wreck Austin Hill, got him very loose, and had an incredible save. I will give him that. But then to completely unplug your brain and just make a left turn at a track that you're doing very high speeds at, even in the corners, and Eric Almirola goes head on into the wall. First of all, you're stupid for wearing white gloves, because that was the dead giveaway for how we could tell this was intentional. To then go on pit road and tell NASCAR to go fuck themselves was another small brain move. And then to not comment after the race. I haven't seen anything out there about, hey, I'm glad Eric's okay, because he compared that to, a hit very on par with his wreck that broke his back at Kansas. I mean, thank goodness for the safety innovations in these cars that it wasn't worse and that Eric is okay. So, we haven't heard anything different from that. I can't believe how this guy can stand up in front of the Xfinity Series garage or in front of the drivers meeting and say, hey, I'll be the mentor for you guys. If that guy is the mentor, then the Xfinity Series is in danger, because if everybody is going to model their racing styles after Austin Hill, then every little bump, nudge, push, we're just going to start seeing a demolition derby out there, because this guy cannot keep his cool, and he's going to go walk around because he's this big, tall, fat bully that he thinks that he can just get away with it. And somebody at some point, and thankfully NASCAR laid down the hammer, and as of this recording on Tuesday night, that he's been suspended for Iowa. If NASCAR didn't do that, I think the whole garage was going to be up in arms about it. Certainly the fan base would have. But dude, now you just took 21 playoff points and you threw that out the window. Like, you were going to have a nice cushion in the first round, and now you will start with 0 playoff points because you cannot keep your emotions under control. And you just want to throw these little crybaby fits because, oh, I'm sorry that somebody raced you a little bit hard. Somebody got you a little bit loose. Guess what? That's racing. Eric Almirola didn't spin you out. And so then you feel like that because he got you a little bit loose, that you just need to go in and you just need to completely right hook him, which you talk to any driver in the field. And if you right hook somebody, that's basically, you might as well just punch them in the face. So I'm glad that Austin Hill is suspended. At least it's one race. There could have been an argument for 2, but at least it's a race. He's going to start with 0 playoff points. And he will be the reason, and we'll look back on this moment, he will be the reason of why Austin Hill and the 21 team won't win the championship this year, is because of this moment. So if he wants to mentor any of these drivers in the field, well, here's your lesson right here. Be smarter on and off the racetrack, but especially don't try to commit murder or attempted murder on somebody on the racetrack. So,
And
thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
That's a good TED Talk. I can't back that up. But this mentor is the same guy. Mentor. I was doing it out right down here. I'll just crawl it up a little bit. Bring both hands up. This mentor is the same driver that had a temper tantrum at Martinsville and cheap shot Myatt Snyder, and then had the nerve to go in the media and say that Myatt was in his face when Myatt is nowhere even close to his face and doesn't move in at all and just swings for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Myatt Snyder, who's, I think, considered one of the nicest drivers in Xfinity. I know he's not racing full-time this year, but Myatt has a great reputation. This is the same mentor that tag team with Richard Childress, Sheldon Creed, and just absolutely ripped him a new one and treated him like shit for the incident that happened in Martinsville, 2 years ago? And Sheldon Creed did nothing that Austin Hill wouldn't have done and also did in that same race, and far less egregious than what Austin Hill did in that race, because Hill ended up costing their team a shot to even race in that championship race because of his temper tantrum that he threw, because he thought he was done wrong by a driver that was fighting just as hard for the win in that race as he was, and decided to blow it for both of them. Just because Sheldon Creed hadn't won a race and was going for it like him and was leaving the team at the end of the year. That's definitely a mentor. This is the same driver that has treated junior motorsports drivers and said some really disgusting stuff about them over the radio and to the media, including Sam Mayer. That's funny now that Creed and Mayer are teammates with Stuart Haas, or not, I can't say Stuart Haas, but Haas. But and Dale Earnhardt Jr. even called him out on that. And that was last year, and a lot of people called BS on the podcast that they had on the Dale Jr. download. And now we're here with this mentor again, who had the nerve to go on stage and say that to drivers who have been in the series longer than him, and that race a lot cleaner than him, and that perform a lot better on some tracks than him. And then again, like Steve, you just said, try to commit pretty much murder. And it's not the first time we've seen drivers intentionally wreck. It's not going to be the last. But to do it at a 1.5 or 2 mile racetrack, to not even get put in the wall or have anything really detrimental to his day happen, and to just lose his cool like that, when he was going to lose 1 or 2 spots? And with the reputation that he has in the garage, and with former drivers and the things that he said and what he said to NASCAR, it's uncalled for. And I think that he's definitely making a case for maybe the most unlikable, if not driver, one of, if not the most, unlikable driver in NASCAR history. And it's very disappointing because this is a driver that definitely has the talent, maybe one day to get a cup. But I don't think any team owner, aside from Richard Childress, will ever sign a piece of shit like that. And it's not going to happen when you keep doing dumb stuff on the track. And that right there was one of the most uncalled for things I've ever seen.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know that it was in the blue collar rule book to be an attempted murderer. Like I do blue collar work, and I've never once tried to do attempted murder on anybody.
You've never pit
Um,
maneuvered someone on the interstate because they were too close to you.
so trust me, the thought has rolled through my head so many times, but I've never acted through on it.
See, you've got
Um,
that thing in your head that says, "Hey, if I kill this guy, I might feel a little bad about it." I don't think Austin Hill has that. I'll keep my comments on this short and sweet because you guys covered all the bases. One, Austin Hill's a whiny crybaby bitch, and he sucks anywhere that you have to lift off the gas. One. Two, that Bennett trucking check must be fucking huge because oh my God, this guy's an asshole and he should not have a ride anywhere close to NASCAR. He shouldn't have a street stock ride at Montgomery Motor Speedway, dog. Like this guy, I mean, he's an asshole. He'll never get to Cup because of it, right? And if he does get to Cup, he'll keep doing the same stuff that he's doing and he'll work himself right out of a ride there too. So I mean, he sucks, he knows it, and then he wrecks people because of it. That's it.
My favorite is the no comment, no media after the race. I love it. Oh, the cowards just show up all the time, and then poor Richard Childress. Sometimes Richard Childress is just he could be a clown too. But I mean, when Richard Childress gets put into all these situations, like every damn time, dude, what else is he gonna say? He can't just say, "Yeah, my driver's a fucking idiot." Like he can't say that. So he's got to sit there and say, "Yeah, well, they're after us and our blue collar because we're a blue collar team. They're gonna go after us and how they didn't penalize Austin Dillon and I mean, yeah, or Austin Cindric. My bad. They didn't penalize him. Well, yeah, we all called for a suspension on Cindric for right hooking Ty Dillon, but NASCAR didn't do it, and that's what put them into this box where there was question on whether they were going to suspend Austin Hill or not. But yeah, doing it at 180 mile an hour into a non-safer barrier wall. I mean, the writing was on the wall. If they didn't suspend Austin Hill for that, then they should have just get rid of all those rules, just get rid of them and let the Wild Wild West back out. Just let them just do whatever they want. Boys have at it to the extreme. Just let them do it. But they finally put some law and order here. Austin Hill suspended a race. RCR is not appealing it, which clearly means he did it on purpose because if they had anything that could have proved that it wasn't, RCR, is going to go appeal because they appealed everything. They appealed the Austin Dillon deal last year at Richmond. So clearly, Austin Hill and what are these drivers going to race around him going to do? I mean, what? They're not going to be racing him for wins outside of super speedways, but maybe that's just a little more incentive at Talladega to. Are they racing Dega in Xfinity?
yeah, they are.
So that's the only way I could see Austin Hill could still make the championship fours if he wins Dega. Because looking at the points, there's not too many playoff points unless your name is Connor Zilich or Justin Allgaier. So it's not like Hill's going to be in a huge deficit to start the playoffs. So if he does get into that round of 8 and wins Talladega, like he probably will, unless the whole field keeps teaming up on him, then I mean, obviously he's not smart enough to think about that because
Well, yeah, and you know what should happen at Talladega then? Eric Almirola should be in the race, and then when they're running at 180 plus miles an hour, Eric Almirola should send Austin Hill straight head on into the wall and see how he likes it. That would be poetic justice.
I'll be
Take away
cheering
the
for it.
safer barrier.
Hey, what Eric Almirola will be like, what? Oh, I can't race next week. I didn't plan on it anyway. But yeah, so that's enough Austin Hill talk. Let's get into some playoff talk. Had a little controversy last week when it came to Sirius XM NASCAR, and I think it was Larry Max and Daniel Trotta show, and Daniel Trotta was hinting that there's a driver on the playoff format committee that NASCAR formed this year, that there's a driver that is very adamant about doing the 36 race full season Winston Cup Series format. And Larry McReynolds, right before they went to commercial break, said, "Oh, I bet it's a driver that's never won a championship." And Daniel Trotta said, "Indeed, it was." Basically insinuating that they're talking about Mark Martin. And Larry Mack was like, well, basically shitting on the 36 race format. And so basically, there's one of two people that they're talking about, Denny Hamlin or Mark Martin. But I don't know if I've ever heard Denny Hamlin come out and say, "Yeah, the 36 race format. That's the race. That's the one I want to do." I think he's been on record saying if you're going to do a playoff, just do a 3 race final round or something to that effect. So I think they're talking about Mark Martin. And
That's what I thought.
I mean, why do they got to talk shit about Mark Martin?
I think
Yeah, but
it might have been taken out of context a little bit. I don't think Larry meant it in like a harmful way because I don't think he and Mark have ever had any kind of beef like back in the night. Obviously, maybe when they're on the racetrack, but I think he might have just kind of been poking the bear, maybe a little fun dig at Mark, but obviously only Mark would know that. It might have just been taken a little bit out of proportion, but that was just my interpretation on it.
unfortunately, Larry has turned into one of those people in the NASCAR media that just has the rug pulled over his eyes now. NASCAR could wake up and say, "Hey, Larry, the sky's red today," and you go, "Oh yeah, it is." So
Well, you gotta look. It was on Sirius XM NASCAR radio. Who funds Sirius XM NASCAR radio? Any guesses, anybody? NASCAR. So if you ever put it on, which I've grown up listening to Sirius XM NASCAR radio because I've been in the car a lot with my dad. We used to travel a lot. So it was always a staple, turn on channel 90, Sirius XM. But it feels like recently, like even when callers call in, you can hear everyone is paid by NASCAR. So they're not going to broadcast a dissenting opinion because the paychecks might stop coming, right? So that's kind of that angle that they've taken defending NASCAR, which I I don't think that's good for the sport. That one of the main media outlets, like that's the only true NASCAR outlet now is SiriusXM NASCAR Radio outside of, podcasts and different things like that. The only one that's broadcast. Um, it feels like NASCAR buying off the media or whatever. And it's not really a great look. But that's to be expected for them to defend stuff like that. And if you even look on Twitter, I think Mark Martin did a poll that people prefer the full race season or the full season points, or even the chase when it was 10 races, something where it's multiple races determining a champion, right? And the Mark Martin poll, and then Jeff Gluck said on the teardown because of the Mark Martin poll, he was like, maybe Mark Martin just has a different demographic on Twitter. I'm going to put out a poll. Gluck put out a poll, and it was very similar to a couple of percentage points to what the Mark Martin people said. Now, obviously, that's Twitter. That's not all of the fans. Not everyone voted in it. All of that. We get that. But in the sample size that they had of the NASCAR Twitter, which Jeff Gluck obviously has a huge following because he is one of the mainstays in NASCAR Twitter, um, it is obvious that this is what the people want, and it's a shame that it's not going to happen. I believe not going to happen this year because they were talking about because of TV contracts, and NASCAR needs to put a schedule out soon. um, but TV still wants the playoff format, and I don't think it's going to change for next year. At least that's what I've heard from the different industry people talking about it that are involved in those conversations. It's just TV's kind of putting kind of a hold on it just long enough, kind of lobbying long enough to keep it off of next year. But moving forward, I think that we will end up seeing some sort of a little more fair where the guy with a 17th place average finish can't win the championship. Because, I mean, even I'll admit that's not a true champion. Under the format, it is a true champion. And you can't really take that away from someone because their name will be etched in as that year's champion no matter what. But and no one, a lot of people from the outside looking in, especially if you look at the wider motorsports as a whole, NASCAR's their champion being crowned by one race is just a laughing stock in general because literally you look at every other motorsport and it is a full season worth of points that determines that. So I hope that in the future, I probably won't happen in 26, but hopefully 27, somewhere beyond, everyone can kind of work out a happy medium and get something that's more legitimate while also still pleasing the TV people that want that kind of Game 7 type moment. But yeah, I mean, it's what the people want, and I think what the people want should be fairly important in the decision making of NASCAR.
Now, I just want to know what these freaking idiots in NASCAR are doing. They formed this playoff committee with about 30 to 40 people in the off season. And according to Jeff Gluck and Danny Hamlin, who are both on the committee, they have had 2 meetings. One, I think, during like Daytona Speed Weeks and one during Charlotte Week. And now, Jeff Gluck said on the teardown 2 weeks ago, if you asked him if the format was changing for next year, 90 to 95%, he was sure that they were going to change the format next year. Now, all of a sudden, NASCAR has started throwing the blame on NBC for not wanting to change the format. And now that their backs are up against the wall to release the schedule for next year, that since the schedule is going to come out, they can't change the format. It's been 8 months. What the hell have you been doing? And then now Adam Stern just tweeted this maybe an hour or two ago. NBC's Sports' vice president of NASCAR stated, "We'll let NASCAR sort out their vision and we will produce those playoff races to the best of our ability." And Chris Gabehart commented on it, saying, in other words, don't blame us for not wanting to change it. Basically throwing a dig at NASCAR for saying, no, it's your fault. You're the ones that don't want to change the playoff format. Don't put this on us. We will still broadcast and make a good broadcast, however the format sees fit.
Drama.
And what is NASCAR going to refute their $8 billion there and say that NBC is lying now?
Yeah, it's going to get messy here pretty quick. As if NASCAR needs to be involved in more drama. Let's throw in the 2311 stuff. Let's throw in this. Let's throw in that. So, yeah, ultimately, just like Brad Keselowski said, it's an entertainment sport. What is going to get eyeballs in there? So, while I think a 36 race playoff system would reward the best driver, unfortunately, I don't foresee that happening again anytime in the near future. But hypothetically, if it were, we would have quite the battle on our hands right now, because I saw that right now Chase Elliott is leading the what would be, well, the regular season points, but what would be the point standings if it was the full season points. Leading it by 4 points, Kyle Larson is 15 points behind, and Denny Hamlin 20 points behind. So the argument of, oh, we would have a driver completely run away with it, at least for this season, has been thrown out the window because we have at least 4 guys within 20 points of each other. So it's just whatever system that they decide to go with, if they decide to stick with the current system, if they decide to do some sort of hybrid or the full season, it just needs to be simplified, because we talk about this every year where all of a sudden we're getting closer to Daytona, and TV up until, probably within about 5 to 6 races of the playoffs is when they will start kind of highlighting the regular season points on the broadcast. But up until then, you have no idea. And all of a sudden, if you're a newer NASCAR fan and you have no idea what's going on, now all of a sudden they're throwing out, oh, you got to get points for the regular season championship. But the regular season championship, and then you're getting playoff points for the playoff. Like, if you're not watching this every single week and you're just kind of more of a casual fan, you could get lost in this so quickly. So whatever system that they decide to go with, it just needs to be simple for people to understand.
Yeah, and Mark Martin made a great analogy when he made his appearance on Door Bumper Clear this week. Listen, the Super Bowl this year sucked. But is that going to stop me from watching the Super Bowl next year? No. So why do we have to force this Game 7 in the World Series? Not every World Series goes to Game 7. So why are we forcing this Game 7 moment every single season at the same track? Granted, they're changing it to Homestead next year, but even then, I mean, it's going to be a rotation, but now you get rid of this playoff format of the one race championship, that rotation just kind of becomes useless. So what are more people really watching any of the 10 playoff races more, since they are considered playoffs, even going up against the NFL, as if they were just regular races in a 36 race full season? Because honestly, if you have no interest in NASCAR, you're not just going to turn it on because the words playoffs are there for the race if you got football on all day. If you want to do this and have ratings up, you're going to have to stop the season by September.
Yeah, I've heard people before that don't watch NASCAR every single week, when they're like, oh, I'll turn it on the playoffs. Well, then it's not like the NFL or like these other stick and ball sports where only the teams that are in the playoffs get to play. Everybody still gets to race, but only certain people within that are eligible for the championship. And so I've heard some of these people before like, well, this is so confusing because if this guy isn't in the playoffs, why is he still racing? And so, yeah, it's hard to wrap your mind around it if you're not talking about it week in and week out like us. I did like what Chase Elliott said this week, and he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that basically if somebody has a bigger points lead, and where this system came from was a lot of, well, we don't want somebody with 2 or 3 races to go to clinch a championship. It's like, yeah, but it might not be exciting for TV, but what's wrong with that? Like, that just means that they had a great year. And so what's wrong with that if something like that happens? Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think TV and the TV partners have too much say and too much pull in it. But I think it's just going to be a back and forth game of TV might want it one way, NASCAR might want it another way. They're going to try to blame each other for it. And then who's going to be the ultimate loser out of it? The fans. So it's unfortunate.
I think the hardest part about NASCAR, trying to draw in that playoff crowd, is that sports is built on stories and storylines, right? And when you have a sport like NASCAR, a full season storyline is kind of what you need, and you need it to be a couple of players. Like this year, it would be the top four or whatever that are really going for the championships. Would we have a full season thing? And then you can spin those last few races or the last however many races talking about those storylines throughout the year, because what really makes it compelling when I tune into a NFL playoff game where I haven't watched every single game because I'm a Saints fan. If the Saints aren't in the playoffs, that all of these teams, I haven't watched every game. I've seen, the news headlines, all of this stuff. I kind of have an idea of what's going on with these teams, but in on the broadcast, they can create a compelling story and tell you the story of their season because there's only two of them, and they can kind of paint that picture. They can paint certain players. They can do that stuff. But when you have 16 different drivers that are throughout a field of 40 drivers that you're trying to paint the picture of, and you're trying to find them, and you're trying to make everything make sense for these people. It's hard to put it in a nice tidy little package in order to explain that to people, because that's the allure of playoffs and other sports, is that, like I said, you can tell a season worth of story because there's just two of them to tell the story about. But when you've got 16 different people and you've got to spend a certain amount of time explaining the format to people that don't understand it, it's a difficult format to understand. It's difficult to get to the storylines of all of these drivers. And in reality, it would be a lot easier to paint the storyline of Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott. If it was a full season and those were the four that are going at it right now, you can run those storylines and you can paint that picture a lot easier than if you're in this playoff format that's hard. It's not an easy thing to understand if you're not following NASCAR, if you don't understand everything. It's it just needs to be simpler, like we were talking about. Any sort of championships needs to be simpler, needs to be more digestible for a casual fan if you were trying to bring in new viewers. And you need to be able to paint storylines because sports in general is compelling because of the storylines that it brings into whatever championship that would be.
And listen, Denny Hamlin, I think, summed it up short and sweet. Legitimize your system, and the fans will watch. Legitimize your champions, and people will watch. Is there anyone that's going to turn their TV off next year every Sunday and not watch if you did a 36 race full season? I haven't heard one person say I'm done watching if they do that. And I think the most fair thing is to compromise and just go back to the 10 race chase, because I think that's still enough to legitimize your champion, because you still have to have a 10 race consistent stretch, which I think is a good enough sample size to make everybody happy and get you a legitimate champion every year. Now, did you have anything, Steve, before I move on
No,
to
I just hit my button by mistake.
Okay.
You hit it perfectly.
So one last thing we got to talk about before we go into, well, we've got two more things, I think, before we go into picks. San Diego next year. We got a new race on the schedule. San Diego racing on a naval base. I mean, that kind of developed out of nowhere. Even when they were talking about San Diego, some thought it was the streets of San Diego. And then all of a sudden they make this announcement and they're going to be racing apart on a naval base, which is kind of crazy.
It's cool. It's a cool idea. I obviously they haven't released the official track yet. They have like the one little screenshot that everyone's sharing of the what I guess would be a fictional track that they thought of, or what could be the actual layout. I just think the scenery, I think the idea, um, I think it's all just really cool. I think the idea of having like a traveling type of race like this, like some maybe not even just a street course, but just a date that's flexible like that, because in NASCAR we've gotten used to just it's going to be the same thing, same thing, same thing, and every once in a while we'll add a new track every couple of years. Oh, that sucks. We'll take that out. Yada yada yada. But having just this kind of flexible date that every couple of years, we're not going to be back in Chicago. It one makes it a destination to go to that race at a San Diego because you don't know if that's going to happen again. And then two, it's just kind of cool to see the cars do different things and kind of have a scenery about it. That's just I feel like that's going to be epic scenery because they got the ports over there. They're going to probably have like aircraft carriers in the background and uh, these big jets probably and all that stuff probably in the background. I think it's just going to be a really cool idea.
Yeah, I would agree. I think especially next year being the 250th anniversary since America became a country, that'll be a huge deal. With that, NASCAR arguably always puts on the best. I don't know the right word for it. Collaborations, what's coming to mind, but um, displays with the military. So yeah, certainly doing something like this is something that we haven't seen NASCAR do before. Obviously, we're kind of still pretty new to these street course races, but being able to do it on a military base in San Diego will be pretty cool. And according to Jeff Gluck, when he talked to Ben Kennedy, it might only be a 1 year thing. So it might be in for next year and it might be out after that. So certainly, if like those guys were talking about, if you're thinking about going to San Diego, jump on it for next year because it might not get an opportunity after that.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a monumental event for NASCAR. Both of you covered it well. It's a new venue, obviously not a permanent venue, but um, we're in a new market. We're going to an area that really doesn't have a lot of NASCAR ties, but a city that is known for being one of the best travel destinations in the United States. Um, Scenery, activity, the zoo, the beach, coastal front, everything with it. And the base obviously sits on the water, so it's going to be definitely one of the best backdrops I think we've ever had, if not the best backdrop ever in NASCAR, aside from the Chicago Street Course race. But I think this will be better. Um, yeah, just not a lot of racing activity down there. You have to travel close to Los Angeles or all the way up to Laguna Seca on the coast, right? So and no auto club anymore. So there's not really a whole lot of racetracks down there aside from horse racing. Um, but NASCAR's ties with the military obviously date back forever. It's very, very cool to see a collaboration between the Navy and NASCAR. This is only going to be a win. I don't see any downside or anything negative that could ever come from this, even after the fact, aside from the talk that'll be generated from this race when it happens. So I think that this will set up for a really special event when it comes next year. And then obviously too, didn't mention it, but the advertisements so far for the race have been stellar. The ad that they launched on television and then the long little ad they did, probably what, 3 or 4 minutes with you had Carson Hocevar in there, you had William Byron, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott was the forefront of it. Can't think of who else I'm missing, but it was really cool to see, and definitely one. I think if not the probably the best ad that we've ever had for NASCAR.
I gotta say, NASCAR's social media team has definitely stepped up a lot this year. It has been really good. I don't know who they added or whatever. I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes there, but it feels like this year the social media presence feels like it feels like an old person kind of gave way to a newer generation type of social media presence that they have this year, and it feels like they've hit on a lot of their releases for different stuff, and it kind of this is like the pinnacle of it. I'm sure it'll get even better past this, but that was one of the coolest videos that I like. It got me hyped wanting to go to San Diego for that race just because of the way that they did all that. It got me hyped for the race for sure.
Yeah, gonna be really fun. Gonna wait and see the confirmation of the layout. I think that's coming later down the road in the fall. So we'll talk about that more as we get more information. And before we make our picks, we got to talk about Junior Motorsports real quick. 100 wins in the Xfinity Series, and it is Connor Zilisch that got the win for him, not Justin Allgaier. It looked like Allgaier had a chance to get it, but he let Hung Money restart on the inside of him, and Larson just wiped him out. And Connor Zilisch was able to get by Taylor Gray on the last restart to get his third consecutive win. And I'm really wishing I put more money on his over under line because I only threw $20 on it. I should have just put everything in my savings on there. I'd have a lot of money because he's more than doubled his win loss, is over under on wins. This kid is something else, and I'm excited to see him in the Cup Series next year. We all know he's going to Trackhouse in the Cup Series next year, but between him just dominating the Xfinity Series and Junior Motorsports getting their 100th win and Dale Jr. being at the track for it, because there was worry that Junior might not be at the track when they got that 100th win. It all just kind of worked out, and there's no one upset about it.
And the crazy thing is, since he had that injury at Talladega, he missed the race at Texas. He's 9 consecutive top five finishes, 3 wins, only one finish or two. It looks like two finishes worse than third, but no worse than fifth. Like he had whatever reset he had having that week off has been unreal. And I don't know of another driver like even the Kyle Bushes and the Kevin Harvicks and the Brad Keselowski eras that ran full time had a stretch like this where it's been that all top fives maybe since like Jack Ingram or Mark Martin, but I mean he's just lighting it up. And I don't remember if he was my pick. I feel like when we made our championship picks at the top of the year,
Mm-hmm.
I think I picked him to win the championship this year, just because of how much talent and just what he was going to probably put on display. We didn't see it the first half, but he's definitely showing up. And right now, don't see there. I mean, there is no sign of him slowing down. And his ceiling is so high. He's only what 18 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, he's unreal. I mean, like I think I even said it too. I think he'll contend for the championship and cup next year if Trackhouse gets their stuff together.
Yeah, it's really impressive starting with the junior motorsports side. I didn't know until they said it. They've won 12. That's their 12th win this year. Like that is insane. Like we know junior motorsports historically, all of them are usually championship contenders, and they're usually really good. It's really good equipment. It's a great run team, well-run organization, all of that. But 12 wins, that is over a tenth of their all-time wins have come this season. Which is that's insane to put that in perspective like that. Like, wow, 12 wins this year. And then with Zilich, they were talking about this on the pre-race show on TNT where they were like, I can't remember the last time that a prospect came in this hyped and lived up to the hype like like Zilich has. And I honestly can't either. Like the last time that we had a prospect that came up and was just like lights out winning this much, what was it? Kyle Larson? I don't even think he was that good
Now,
coming up.
Larson wasn't even much in the Xfinity Series. He never had a great ride,
He
but
wrecked a lot. I
yeah.
remember that.
I mean, Todd Gibbs, you could say Todd Gibbs. I mean, he tore the Xfinity Series up in his 1 year.
Yeah, I guess. But still, like I mean just the I don't think any like Wes was saying, like I don't think anyone's had a stretch like this in a long time, if ever. And Xfinity was nationwide back to Busch Series days. Like I don't think that anyone's been this good. And for him to be this good and living up to the hype this much, this young. It's looking scary for some cup. He's gonna run some cup drivers into retirement. I can tell you that those old guys that think they have a shot at a championship now, he's gonna show up. And the fact that he's doing this on ovals now too is just it's scary because everyone knew that the road course stuff was there. That's what he's grown up doing. And not that he was a bad oval driver by any means, but just didn't think that he had this kind of dominance in him at ovals. And for him to put it together with ovals and road courses, I think everyone in NASCAR is on notice for Zilich when it come playoff time in this Xfinity uh, championship, and then looking forward into next year and beyond in Cup. Like this guy is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Junior Motorsports, 100 wins that's a lot of wins. It's impressive what they've done, and they've had a lot of drivers win for them. I think Justin Allgaier has the most by a lot. I mean, you had Elliott Sadler win some races. Dale Jr. has a win for him at Richmond. It's just a lot of drivers and Mark Martin got their first win.
I was about to say, if you look at first win to last win, or first win to 100th win of all of these teams, this has got to be the largest age gap because Mark had to have been mid 50s whenever he won that race, that first race. And then now into a 19-year-old phenom that's winning their 100th win, which is, you look at that, that's insane all on its own.
You got people, Ron Fellows is on that list. You got Jamie McMurray.
I hate to say, I mean, well, it shows my age. I don't hate it for everybody watching, but I remember Ron Fellows winning. I'm like, old, 30.
I mean, you look,
Anyway.
Josh Berry's got 5. Regan Smith's got 6 wins.
And you read off the names and it's like, wow, they're just a development, not even a specific team, obviously, with Hendrick and all of Junior's connections with them and all of that, but just everywhere throughout Cup. The development pipeline from Junior into like a high level Cup driver is insane. Like it started with probably Brad Keselowski is the first one that I can think of that came out of Junior Motorsports and became a high level and obviously a champion in Cup. And it just feels like that pedigree's grown throughout going to different drivers that go through there. Obviously, Chase Elliott, um, Byron, all of these guys that it just seems like Junior Motorsports, if you want to be developed as a driver, they're doing something there. I don't know exactly what it is, whether it's coaching, whether it's just they just find talent really well or what, but it's just really impressive the kind of pipeline that Junior Motorsports has set up into being a high level Cup driver.
Yeah, absolutely. So congrats to Junior Motorsports. And now we have to make our race picks. Last week we had our bye week, so by default, I said in my head that Bubba Wallace is going to win, so I'm going to give myself a win in the standings. No, I won't really do that. But I somehow managed to finish third every time we do this, so I'm sure I'll just pick whoever's going to get third best. But I think this week we start with Wes with
Yeah,
Iowa picks.
my poor, I think I said in the group chat, I think my average finish this year, my drivers have either won or finished dead last. Like, I mean, I think I've gone first a lot. Uh, I kind of looked through our picks just to see who I've got left. I mean, I still have some big names, and I could use a big name here, and I'm going to because one of you is going to take Denny Hamlin, and one of you is going to take Ron Blaney. Uh, to be determined, maybe not. I am gonna, or one of you three. I'm gonna go big here. I'm gonna go the guy that gave Ryan Blaney the best shot last year that wasn't Kyle Larson. I'm gonna take William Byron. I think that Byron, he's only won one race this year. He's overdue. He's had some misfortune in past weeks. I think that this is right around the time where he starts turning it up. I know we're not in the playoffs, but every year around this time, he starts picking up his game. And I think that this is a track that's going to play to his advantage. I don't know if Blaney can repeat, but he was fast last year. But Byron gave him a good challenge there at the end. So Byron's going to be my pick.
All right, that takes us to Sam, and there's only one guy you could pick here.
There's only one guy because I've still got him open. I was thankful that Wes had already used him. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Ryan Blaney back to back, the king of the corn. Thank you, Steven. Thank you. I think I'm gonna that's gonna be his new nickname, King of the Corn. If he wins this back to back, he's gonna be the corn shucking king.
All right, well, my pick, he'd probably get me third pick next week. So this guy finished fifth last year. Some people might not remember that. He is an Xfinity Series winner at this racetrack. He did it blowing an engine one time. I'm going Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to win his way into the playoffs, not at Daytona, but in Iowa.
Wow. Call that a layup if I ever seen it.
Mike Kelly likes that pick.
Yeah, Magic Mike.
Magic Mike might do it again.
I'm depressed now because I was waiting all year for Blaney at Iowa. I was waiting.
That would be my big fat ass.
And when we had the off week, I knew that the fate had been sealed. So I'll go with a Ford teammate of his, and I will go with the 21 of Josh Berry. Hopefully he'll have a good run at Iowa. Hopefully they'll keep enough fuel in the car, not have a repeat of Indy. So I'll go with the 21 of Josh Berry. And then that leaves, I guess Anthony sent his picks over to me. He's going to go with the 5 of Kyle Larson for Iowa.
He hasn't used Larson yet?
He has not used, let me double check. No, has not used Larson yet.
All right. I'm surprised Steve didn't roll Denny Hamlin this week since I left it for him.
You know what? You and I are going to battle for him for Richmond. So
I don't know. You're gonna pull you might pull him out for the Glen again.
hey, it worked. It worked. No, I could say with pretty good confidence I will not be using Denny Hamlin for the Glen. So
I figured since we're just about to wrap it up, I was just going to bring a couple like last minute closures to Indianapolis. I noticed Todd Gilliland had his best finish of the year. He had finished sixth. Thought that was pretty impressive. The other big thing, Justin Haley, we didn't really talk about it, but that is kind of the last silly season rumbling. Like he's not had a good year, and it sounds like that he might be out at the end of the season. So there is a chance that we will have a new driver driving the 7. Would be interesting to see if it could be Suarez, if he still finds a home in Cup, or if they got Corey LaJoy back or made some kind of change like that. So we'll have to keep an eye on the 7 team there for Spire over the next few weeks. The last other thing was Catherine Legg. We didn't talk about her, but she ended up getting a 17th place finish. That's pretty big. Like the amount of people that have given her shit for Phoenix and just kind of tore down, but she really performed well in Mexico and she really performed well in this race. Like she ran really competitively. And as the race got on, you saw her get faster and faster. And to do that with the 78 car with BJ McLeod, that is a testament to that team and how hard they worked to prep for that weekend. So I thought that was pretty impressive. Just wanted to give her praise. And it seems like that, you give her some more seat time, get her a little bit more experience. She, maybe she could be a full-time driver next year. I don't know. Probably not because the 78 is not a charter, but she, whenever they show up, she's now showing some good speed. Got a lot of work to do, but that was impressive. I think Lane Riggs, I guess he won an IRP. But the main reason I want to bring up trucks, just to shout out Stuart Friesen. He had a really bad injury in the dirt race that he was competing up in Quebec, where he broke his pelvis and his leg. So just wanted to give Stuart a shout out. Hope he is able to recover quick from this. not just to compete, but just for his health. He's got a lot that he does for autism awareness. Runs obviously the truck team, and his wife. They do a lot of dirt track stuff. So it's definitely a hard time for him. But and it was a vicious crash that he had. So just wanted to give out a final shout out there to Stuart Friesen.
Yeah, Catherine Legg outran some good drivers in the finish results. Chase Briscoe, Todd Gibbs. You look at her fastest lap, I know Ross Chastain wasn't out there for very long, but her fastest lap was faster than Ross Chastain's and Michael McDowell's. So definite improvement. She finished ahead of, well, out of people that, she kept the car clean. She didn't get into any wrecks. So she finished ahead of people like Kyle Busch and Tyler Reddick. I mean, it's just great job for her and that team that is a one-car team, BJ McLeod. And yeah, I think with more time, she's a great driver. I think there's some potential there. I think if you give her an Xfinity ride next year, maybe, I mean, there's a path there. So that'd be really cool if that were to happen. But all the shit she did get from Phoenix was still it was warranted, maybe not to the extent some people took it.
It shouldn't have been as much on her. It should have been more on just NASCAR and the whole. You can't test, you can't practice. You have to get in that car and lap one. You got to figure out how to drive the track. It's because like it's what Daniel Suarez had said in his vlog after that race. It's not her fault. It She wasn't prepared. She shouldn't have been out there without the experience of knowing how to drive the track. And you see now what happens when someone kind of understands the car a little more and understands the track a little more. And you get a top 20 out of a car that is hopeful to run to the top 30 whenever they unload. They're hopeful to stay on the lead lap. That's a great race for them. And they not only stayed on the lead lap, but they finished 17th. I feel like that would have been a lot more of a story. That and the Gillen stuff and what all that stuff that Wes mentioned. I feel like it would have been a lot more of a story that was highlighted had Bubba Wallace not won this. That kind of took away a lot of the um, you know top 10 from Gilliland and the 11th from Justin Haley in a bad season and Leg getting the 17th and the 78. That kind of took the wind out of those storyline sales just because of how polarizing of a figure and how big of a story it was for Bubba to win. But those guys and gal definitely deserve their flowers.
Absolutely. So make sure you guys go to X or Twitter, go to TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Make sure you're following Foreign Field Podcast. TikTok has been booming for us. I finally completed the putting the drivers in order challenge. Day 42 was the magic day. And then Steve made this whole teaser basically introing him trying to do the challenge in less days than me. And then Steve goes on day 2, I think does 5 tries before he posts the actual one and then gets it done. That's the theory I'm taking here. We can't hear you, Steve. I think your mic's muted.
Hey, there we go.
There we go.
Hey, well, put your tinfoil hat down because both days were one take. Yeah, I'm a man of honesty, and yeah, the whole thing with the teaser video, I spent an hour trying to clip all. I went through and I watched all 42 days trying to pull clips from it. I spent an hour putting that together, and the total amount of time that I spent guessing during those 2 videos was like 2.5 minutes of doing it. So yeah, it was nuts. Day 2, I was sitting in line, waiting to get the oil changed in my car, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta do the video."
Hmm.
And sure enough, here's driver after driver, and everything's just lining up. I was like, "No shot in hell, no shot that this is gonna be day 2." And ironically, it was Denny Hamlin that saved it all. So
Yeah, because your first day you got 5.
yeah, first day 5, I was like, whatever. I was like, that's going to be pretty average for the first couple days here, and I thought for sure, it was going to be run into the 30s, and then day 2 done over. And it's like, well, I can't even do day 3 now.
Yeah, so yeah, more content definitely gonna get pushed out on our TikTok, YouTube. Yeah, you can go watch the JR interview Sam did on YouTube or listen to it on Spotify. It's up right now. I'll link that in the description of this podcast. It's a good listen, 15-minute interview. Make sure you go check that out. Sam did a really good job on that. So want to give him his praise before we sign off here. And so yeah, next week we're gonna come back, be talking about Iowa. We'll maybe we'll have some corn. Hopefully we don't get I mean, don't drink too much Bush Light with the farmers on there because we all got to make it back here next week. So for Sam, Wes, Steve, I'm Dom. We'll see you next week after Iowa.